This round's AFL Record print edition is available on game day at newsagents, Coles and Coles Express. Also online via afl.com.au, the AFL app, sen.com.au and the SEN app. Proudly part of our Top Sport, official wagering part of the AFL Record. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
Oh, how about that round one done? So many talking points. What a weekend of footy it was. Great to be joining you to talk about it all this morning. We've got our Monday wash-up coming up after 7 o'clock. Michelangelo Rucci and Nathan Bassett. Port Adelaide and the Crows are in the top 8. Hazy, good morning to you, my old mate.
Good morning, Kane. Good morning to everybody out there. Nice weather across Adelaide today. Get amongst it. It's 29 degrees. But let's just really quickly go through it. Just a little checklist, if you don't mind, from Monday morning. Reds, A-League. Yep, absolutely nailed it. Reds, W-League. Yep, 36ers. Not quite. Port. Oh, yes. Crows, AFLW. And what about this? Who saw this coming? Crows, AFL, tick, tick, tick. My goodness me.
Unbelievable. So we do our Friday forecast, and we know that you're the kiss of death, Hazy, as we spoke about on Friday. Did you secretly make Geelong your certainty? Because that's the only explanation I've got for that performance on the weekend was that you tipped them and put the kiss of death on the Cats.
Look, I must have without even realising it. We
Subconsciously.
I mean, were we discussing it off air or something? Because, that's the direction that it's going. Nobody could have tipped this. I saw one person tip this. Annette Edmondson, absolute champion South Australian cyclist. Wow. She's a tipster in the Advertiser, and she's clearly a staunch Crows supporter. She had them tipped. She also had North Melbourne to beat Port Adelaide. So you can work out from that she genuinely just is a good, solid, crazy Crows supporter. She tipped them. Nobody else in this big brown country would have tipped the Crows, and they got the job done. Multi-bets, tips across the land.
Ruined.
Absolutely ruined. And it's a good thing.
Decimated. Absolutely decimated. Crows fans, we want to hear from you this morning. 1300 736 736. You can text us 043390. No, that's the wrong one. 0427 154 166. Get involved for weeks. $25,000 cash discount is helping more families build their dream home. Enjoy more. Visit Weeks. If I was a Crows supporter, I reckon that would be in my top 10 proudest performances in club history. That's how good it was. The ferocity in which they attacked the footy and even more so attacked the man was like nothing I've ever seen. And Hazy, I saw nothing of it in the pre-season. And granted, it was a short pre-season, but watched as you did closely the first 2 games against Port Adelaide, there were no hints. There were no clues. There was nothing that said to me they were going to pull out a performance like that. So what did they do during the week? I don't know, but they've knocked off a team who played in the grand final with a bunch of kids.
Oh, jeez, it was fun to watch. First quarter, you sat there and you went, wow, quarter time. You'd be happy with that, Crows supporters. That's exactly what we wanted. We wanted just a bit of effort, just a bit of spark. Yep. Show the crowd something. Half time, you thought, much the same as quarter time. You'd be happy with that. Keep it going. This is a positive brand of football. It's something to work with in 2021. 3/4 time, you sat there and you went, hang on a second.
Could we?
Is this potentially going to happen? I don't reckon. And then the Cats came late and you thought, a minute to go. I didn't get comfortable. We thought, no, surely. Is this going to happen? And absolutely it did. And a bloke by the name of Taylor Walker, rearrange your tips for 2021. You might have to redo a little Brownlow medal. You might have to do a Coleman because Tex is going to win that. And there's a new premier in town. Don't you worry about that. Because the Cats, aren't they supposed to be the benchmark?
Well, it was amazing. And like I was sitting there, so I was flying at the start of the game. My plane took off. I was listening to the call on the AFL app, or the AFL Nation app, I should say, the SEN one. And I was a bit like you. I was like, how long can they keep this going for? And I landed at half time and got to watch the second half in the taxi. I was blown away by the performance. And honestly, if you're a Crows fan, let us know how that felt. I would think it would be in your top 10. And I've watched most Crows games that they've ever played. That was top 10 for me. I couldn't believe it. But we'll keep our powder dry for the Monday wash-up after 7 o'clock. And we'll get you involved in that 1300 736 736. Plenty of other things to talk about this morning, though, Hazy. It's all happening.
There was, but just before we move on from that, your old man, I'm a big fan of Graham. So Graham did the hosting on Saturday at Channel 7 for that game. And he sat there, and he got there miles too early. I mean, he didn't have to be there till, not too long before the game got underway. He was there a good hour and a half, just sitting there, chewing the fat, preparing. That's what he does. He's super organised. He sat there, and we said, Graham, what do you reckon about today? I mean, what's a good result? And he looked at us and he goes, you know what? And I went, don't you dare. Don't you dare. And he started laughing. He goes, no, let me finish. You know what? I reckon the Crows can win today. And we went, Graham, come on. And everyone threw their arms back. They went, oh, gosh, he's officially lost it. Okay, take us through it, mate. Why do you think the Crows can win this today? I said, oh, look, I'm a bit worried about talent, but I just like the way they match up. I like the way that they structure. There's a few things that I think they can actually take to Geelong. So I'm going to put it out there. I think the Crows can win today. And gosh, we laughed. Oh, I mean, we had some work to do, so I had to compose myself because I was laughing so much. And then a good 2.5 hours later, I had to apologise to your old man.
Well, and that's great optimism. And what it does, though, it gives the players belief. And most importantly, like I caught up with a few players at a SEN function the week before, and the senior ones, they said, look, yeah, we understand it's going to be a really long year and it's going to be tough for us. So I don't think they didn't see this coming. They would have been happy with a really competitive half of footy, as you said, hang in there and show some signs, get some games into young players and go from there. And then, the most positive thing for Adelaide is look at their draw from here. We always said round one's going to be really difficult, but from round 2 to 6, you got winnable games. So Sydney this week is a winnable game. You got Gold Coast the week after, absolutely at home. You would now expect to win that. Then you've got North Melbourne. Well, we saw North Melbourne yesterday. That is a winnable game. Could the Crows be 6-0? Hey, we're jumping the gun here, but their next 5 games, I'm telling you, there's Fremantle again in round 5. These are all winnable games. Sydney, Gold Coast, North, Fremantle, and Hawthorn. They are all right now. Would Adelaide start favourite for most of them? Well, probably not, but there wouldn't be much splitting the next 5. So that's what it can do, and that's how quickly the footy season can turn. Hats off to all of you. Got a text coming through here saying Friday, 19th of March, 2021, Cane Corns. If they get away with under a 10-goal loss, they've done a remarkable job. Michelangelo Rucci said, well, indeed. And this one, in all caps, says, please explain Cane. Well, I wasn't alone, is the way that I'll explain it. But I can't. I can't explain it. As I said, nothing in the preseason had me hinting or searching for clues that Adelaide could pull that out. And all I can do is tip my cap and say, well done to you, Matthew Nicks, and well done to the players for executing that. And that is a top 10 victory in the history of the Adelaide Football Club.
Now, I guess we probably need to address this as well, just a little direct quote.
It is the worst Crows team we've seen in 31 years.
Whoa, before he went on a little bit of a rampage. Got some feedback yesterday as well, saw on social media about that. But, I mean, take us through that. And also, sub-point, is that the best round 1 win the Crows have ever had, bar their first ever round 1? Like, in terms of games you're not supposed to win?
Yeah. So I was talking to the guys on the Sunday Footy Show yesterday about that, and round 1, 1991, so Dad was coach, and Hazy, you probably weren't in Adelaide at the time. You're probably sort of 7 years old, running around, I don't know, playing a stupid game like rugby. I'm not sure. But I opted to go to Little Athletics instead of the first ever Crows home game, and it's one of my biggest regrets in life. And Chad went with his couple of his mates because one of his other mates took my ticket because I went to Little Athletics running stupid 200s at Boca Street Oval and missed out on one of the greatest days in South Australian footy history where the Crows knocked off the reigning premier in a physical encounter and got their first win, and Dad was coach and I missed it. So one of life's great regrets. So that would have to be probably their best ever round 1 win, I would think. And for those that were at Footy Park, all 55,000 of you, a lot of you would still remember that. But this is up there. And can I address the worst side in 30 years? It is early. Like I said, they'll win around 5 games for the year, and I probably wasn't alone in that, which would make them the worst Crows side in 30 years. Now, we'll wait and see, and if they win more than 5 games and they get off the bottom of the ladder like last year, I'll be proven wrong on that. But I still look through their list and there's gaping holes everywhere. So if they can bring that pressure every single week, which is tough to do, that may counter some of the lack of talent on their list. But yeah, if they win more than 5, I'll be wrong. And Hazy, I'll put my hand up and say I'm wrong.
All right, well, get involved this morning, 0427 154 166. Oh, Crows supporters, absolutely. You'd be up and about, as would Port Adelaide supporters, because it was a nice display, particularly after quarter time, but not something that we didn't expect.
Yeah, well, it was. So I was there yesterday for Port Adelaide fans, and it was as expected. They are a dangerous side, and we'll speak to Nathan Bassett, their assistant coach, this morning. Some of their ball movement was exceptional, and their ability to transition the ball from their back 50, basically the goal line, through to score was outstanding. Some real highlights for Port Adelaide fans, with Fantasia looking super fit and some others, Travis Boak picking up where he left off last year. So a lot of optimism about Port Adelaide. I'm looking forward to them getting tested. It won't come this week. You wouldn't think. They're playing Essendon in the twilight game Saturday. So the test, having played the Crows twice in the pre-season, won't come until rounds 3 and 4 for Port Adelaide, and that will be how we see they go. They're playing West Coast away at Optus Stadium, and then I think it's Richmond in round 4, but I'll just check it to make sure. Yeah, it is Friday night, huge game at Adelaide Oval. That's when the test will come. Geez,
round 1 always throws a few little spanners in the works. There's a couple of upsets, wasn't there? Hawthorn got the job done, and the big one, Sydney, just knocking off Brisbane, and your Coleman medalist couldn't really get near it.
Well, he kicked a goal early. He kicked a couple, but it was a tough day for the Lions, and that's the thing. Apparently, Matthew Nick said to the players before the game in the change rooms that if you ever want to come up against a good side, you want to get them in round 1. So they're looking to ease into the season. They've had a shorter pre-season that the teams didn't make the 8, and you can get them when they're rusty, and that was Brisbane on the weekend. But Sydney were awesome. Sydney were absolutely brilliant. So, and I thought Gold Coast as well. So 3 of the youngest sides, Adelaide, Sydney, and Gold Coast, their round 1 starts. I know Gold Coast didn't win, but they put in a great effort. There's heaps I want to talk about this morning, though, Hazy. We'll get to the new rules in our Monday wash-up after 7 o'clock. Patrick Dangerfield's been sent directly to the tribunal for his hit on Jake Kelly and knocked him out cold. So he's looking at 3 to 4. You would think. I've got a thought on that and how he has been harshly treated. And I want to speak about some of the new rules as well. Get involved this morning. Join in our conversation and our show on 1300 736 736.
I'll give us a highlight of the weekend because there were plenty, particularly locally. I mean, Red supporters would be up and about. They're looking so pretty and so solid in third on the ladder, and that's in the A-League, the Reds W League. Did you head along yesterday to Hindmarsh? And
5,000 there.
Were you part of the record attendance? Yeah. 5,000 plus for a home and away match. That's a W League record. Congratulations to South Australian football supporters, and the girls did a very good job. Big win there over Western Sydney, so they're in the mix to lock in the top 4. Crows AFLW, they're finals bound, locked it in. Yep. Massive win. Our 36ers, the boys, not quite. And on top of that, one of our favourites, Josh Giddey, down for at least a game with an ankle injury.
Yeah, that's not ideal. I must admit, I got to be completely honest. I didn't watch much other sport other than the 8-9 AFL games. I reckon I watched all of them.
Did you?
So I'm a bit footy washed out already, Hazy. It's crazy. You just get caught up in watching footy game after game. It's like you feel guilty if you haven't watched the footy because I do anyway because you got to talk about it. But so I've got to be completely honest. I didn't watch any of the 36ers. I certainly didn't watch the Adelaide Crows AFLW. So tell me about it and what impressed me. If you watched the Reds, let us know and get involved this morning. And if you want to have a crack at me, I'm a big boy, Hazy. I said, as you just heard, and I'm sure Hazy will remind me of it about 15 times this year, that I said the Crows are the worst side in 30 years. If you want to have a crack, give us a call and have your say. And tell me, did you predict that on the weekend? Because perhaps only Studley Corns was the only one who thought they were a chance.
Look, I'm not going to say anything, but I'll press this.
It is the worst Crows team we've seen in 31 years. I was really strong on that, wasn't I?
Yeah, well, that's what you do, mate. You got some strong opinions.
I didn't hold back. I haven't checked my Twitter feed. So from the moment Adelaide won, and whenever Tex plays well, like my Twitter feed lights up. Like I've said that Taylor Walker is a shocking footballer. Like people think they twist my words into think that I've said that Taylor Walker is a shocking footballer. We've had our feuds off the field, and I've sort of thought it's a bit of a laugh and things like that. But I said in October that the Crows should keep him on the list when people were calling for him, and Crows fans, a lot of Crows fans saying that he should retire. I said they should keep him. My direct quote was that he should get super fit in the off-season, come back in a bit of a mentor coaching role for Himmelberg and Fogarty and Frampton. And if he's good enough, he plays. Well, he's done exactly that. So well done to Tex for the way that he's presented himself. And it just goes to show if you get fit, you're playing for your football life and you're motivated, amazing things can happen. And that was a stunning performance from Taylor Walker on the weekend.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but around sort of game 200, people were almost sort of knocking on the door of Warren Treadray. And then things sort of shifted a little bit, and he got an extra 50 games out and played some really good footy. And I reckon, didn't he win maybe a best and fairest late in his career? I sort of feel like Taylor Walker's going down that path as well.
Well, he's 30 years of age. Like, for goodness sake, if he
old.
wanted to, he's got 3 years left in him. Like, Charlie Dixon signed a 3-year contract at the same age as Taylor Walker. What? And I heard Mark Rasciuto talking about this during the Fox call, is that he thinks the new stand rule will really help Tex. And we saw it a couple of times where Tom Lynch, geez, he was good, Tom Lynch. I can't understand how.
Tom Lynch of old, wasn't it?
It was. So Tom Lynch marks the footy in the front half and just goes. He just wheels and goes. He doesn't think about, is there something to kick to? He wheels and goes, which up the field creates movement from the forwards and gets the ball in quickly before the opposition can flood back. Taylor Walker's always been a leading player. He's never been a high-marking, powerful contested mark. He's always done his best work on the lead. So you could argue that the new stand rule is going to be, the player that's going to benefit most in the whole of the competition could be Taylor Walker. And he's not quick, but he's smart and he reads the play up the field, and he looked really good on the weekend. And then, he only needs 4 or 5 kicks a game because he hits it that sweetly. Thought he was sensational. Crows fans, get up and about, get involved in our show this morning. What a brilliant performance it was from your team and a couple of the young players on the weekend. 5
goals to Tex on the weekend. Unbelievably, he won the Adelaide's leading goal kicker last year with 15.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
Almost there.
It's amazing.
Bit of a shift.
15.
Bit of a turnaround. All right, get involved this morning. We are doing it thanks to Mazda Unbeatable ABN offers on the brand new Mazda BT50 and Tyre Power. Massive Easter sale. Biggest brands, best prices. We're going to go through our sports update next. Get involved. We'd love to take a call from you as well. 1300 736 736. Some nice weather across Adelaide today. Mostly sunny for a top of 29.
Nearly 25 minutes past 6 o'clock. Big show coming up. Michelangelo Rucci, our Monday wash-up, and Nathan Bassett. But if you are just watching footy like me on the weekend, Hazy, apparently there was some other sport, and that's why we've got you here in your big guru. Can you tell us about that, please, with your sports update?
There was some other sport, plenty happening, and unfortunately, let's start with a bit of a sour point locally. 36ers. Potential NBA first-round pick Josh Giddey faces time on the sidelines after going down injured. The Sixers, they fell to the Phoenix 96-89. They took it to overtime. That was on Saturday night. Giddey was caught behind. He was caught blind, rather, when Phoenix big man Yanni, or is it Laurel Wetzel, accidentally fell into his legs.
Yanni, Laurel.
There was 2 minutes left, and Yanni Wetzel, the teenager, immediately grabbed for his ankle. Giddey will need scans. And Adelaide coach Connor Henry said he had no further information. So he's not going to play tonight, I think it is, against the Wildcats. Hopefully after that, he's back in Adelaide recuperating, and he'll be okay. Reds in the A-League, they thrashed the Jets 4-1. Yengi continued his good form. He scored in the 5th minute. Mork not too long after that. And then Halloran and Goodwin also found the back of the net. Reds are third on the ladder. They face Sydney FC on Sunday at Coopers. They're on fire. Start believing and get a little bit excited, please.
Yeah, well, they had a moment there earlier on in the season. What I've been impressed is their leadership to fight back from, really it was an ordinary performance. They lost 4-0. It might have been in Perth, and Carl Viet lost his mind. And since then, they've hardly put a foot wrong. So he's good. He's an impressive coach in his first year. I don't know, it started when he took over last year, but I've been thrilled by what they've been able to do.
In the W League, the Reds have set a new attendance record. There was over 5,000 fans at High Marsh yesterday watching on. It was a 3-1 win over Western Sydney. Congratulations to the girls. So they are in the mix now, closer to locking up a spot in the top 4. It'll probably all come down to what happens next week. But a huge result there. New attendance record. That is a great result. And sport in South Australia is just absolutely going gangbusters. We love it. What about this? Cricket. Jackson Bird has taken a career best 7 for 18.
They got skittled for 32, New South Wales.
During
32.
Tassie's dismantling of New South Wales. It's supposed to be Australia's second 11. 32, their lowest ever score in the Sheffield Shield.
Unbelievable.
The Blues lasted just 19.3 overs. So either side of lunch on day 2 at Bellerive Oval in reply to the Tigers' first innings of 333. So for some reason, it was a good wicket when the Tigers were batting. It's the 4th lowest score in the history of Australia's first-class competition and surpasses New South Wales' previous worst. That was 53 in 2007. Only skipper Peter Neville, 10, not out, made it to double figures. As Bird
7
wreaked
for
havoc.
18.
Oh, and don't you love to see it off the back of some of the ordinary performances from the Redbacks? Now we can say, well, cop that, Blues.
Makes that 104 or whatever the Redbacks made a few weeks ago when you said they were a certainty to win. It makes them look like 500. Like they got bowled out for 32. This is New South Wales. It's supposed to be good.
They would have almost tripled their score. Ridiculous. This saddened me greatly, as you can imagine. The Los Angeles Lakers have been dealt a major blow. Superstar LeBron James, he limped off the court during Sunday morning's clash against the Atlanta Hawks during the second quarter at the Staples Center. James collided with Hawks rival Solomon Hill, who was attempting to steal and toppled onto the floor in pretty solid pain, it looked like. 36-year-old remained on deck grabbing his ankle, screaming in agony before slowly making his way off the court. He did briefly rejoin the contest and scored a three-pointer before calling a timeout and heading to the locker room where he tossed a chair over in frustration. As revealed by the Athletics' Shams Charania, the 4-time NBA All-Star has been diagnosed with a high right ankle sprain. He'll be out of action indefinitely. Now, no one has said this yet, and I don't want to rag on my boy, but I know why he went back on.
Because he wants the MVP.
No, because he's got some ridiculous thing like he's never in his career scored under 10 points. So he went back out there on 7 points. He shot a 3, got to 10, and called it a night. Because it was almost Kane Corns. I'll push through an AC injury to get my games record going on type areas.
So you comparing me to LeBron James? I'll take that, but that's a bit of selfishness from your boy, LeBron.
Well, no one said that. No one said that, but I'm throwing some magnets together, and you know I'm as big a fan as anyone.
I reckon that's fair. Hey, we've got a big show coming up. Coming up next, it's our Monday mashup. Gary and Tim joining us from Melbourne, and we've got all the key talking points. Our Monday wash-up after 7, Nathan Bassett, and also Michelangelo Rucci joining us this morning.
All right, 29 degrees across Adelaide today. It's going to be mostly sunny right now, 18 degrees, and we are doing it thanks to Mazda. Unbeatable ABN offers on the brand new Mazda BT50.
This is the SEN Breakfast Footy Review with Gary Lyon, Tim Watson and SENSA's Kane Corns.
Oh, at great expense, we've wheeled him out. We welcome our South Australian listeners too for this next half hour, so we can lavish praise on the Adelaide Crows, because I know Kane won't. He said the worst team he's ever seen in the history of the Adelaide Crows, and they come out and spank the Cats. Welcome to you, Kane.
Say some stupid things, don't you, Gary? But we'll wait and see. Tim, thanks for having me. I feel like the medical sub just off the bench here with you two gurus.
No.
But great weekend of footy, plenty of talking points. Looking forward to getting stuck into it.
What's the biggest one? Oh, well, let's deal with Patrick Dangerfield first of all. He goes before the tribunal, and then we'll go games, the ones that you thought. You won't be able to get through all of them. Wisp and I will finish off what you don't get to. But where do you see Patrick Dangerfield, who looks destined for a lengthy spell on the sidelines, given the way the rules are written?
I understand that he will be suspended. I understand why, but I still think there is room for accidents in AFL footy. And I just think it's going to be a dangerous area we get to if we rule out complete accidents. Now, it's all well and good for us to go on 7 and Fox, or for me and Channel 9, and slow it down and watch it 15 times in slow motion. This is one of the fastest, most powerful athletes that we have in the game, running at full speed with an opponent running at him at full speed. And he's tried to protect himself, I think. So what I'm concerned about is that it's going to lead to the end of the high mark as well. And you think, well, that's a long bow to draw. But I watched Dan Houston drive his knee into Curtis Taylor yesterday, put his knee into his head, and he got up and he couldn't walk, and he's off, and he's going to miss 12 games. But no one will say anything about Dan Houston driving his knee into the head, which I think is more dangerous. And
that was in pursuit of the ball, though.
In pursuit of the ball. But where are we going to get to with accidents? Is the AFL going to say, well, you can no longer go for a mark driving your knee up? You've got to leave your knees down. This is just the areas we're getting into. If we're going to completely rule out accidents in the game and we can't allow Dangerfield to do that, well, I watched Callan Ward get absolutely cleaned up seriously in a prelim final because of a knee to the head in a marking contest. I think it's dangerous areas. And
alarmist. That's alarmist nonsense from you, I'm afraid.
No, it's not, Gary. Because
yes, it is.
No, it's absolutely not.
Alarmist
because
nonsense.
If we are going to rule out any accidents with the head, we have to rule out Dan Houston. He tried to hurt.
If Pat Dangerfield was going for the football and came charging in with the same level of intensity as he did hit Jake Kelly on the weekend, but he was at the football and Jake was coming at the football and they clashed heads, play on. There will be head knocks in the game. You fly for a mark and your sole intention is the mark and there's head contact, so be it.
No, I think there needs to be room for accidents in the game.
Get this bloke off.
No, you can't. You can't rule out one of the game's best players for 3 to 4 weeks. And as I said, I understand why they're doing it. And I'm not critical of the AFL. I just think it gets into interesting areas if we completely rule out accidents. And
we're not ruling out accidents, though.
Well, we are.
That wasn't an accident, though.
He's trying to protect himself.
No. I reckon the difference here is the fact that he actually went the bump. If he had have followed through and thought to tackle as opposed to bump, and I think that's the critical part about this when you assess it, it was a bump. In the end, it was a bump. And yes, it was a legitimate bump, but heads clashed. And in the act of bumping, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt.
It wasn't a Zach Williams bump. It wasn't I'm going to bump and get you high.
No, it was at last minute.
This is a guy running, and you've played so much footy, Tim. You've been in that moment. You're running flat out. One of the most powerful athletes we've seen. The other guys, you've got 0.2 of a second to turn your body and not with any malice go for his head like Williams did, and I understand that one. He's turned his body and they've hit heads. Like
but he would
his
know
shoulder
that.
hasn't hit.
Patrick would know that when he did that.
In that split second, I reckon we're being really hard.
It is tough, but I think you need to be tough in this area.
So then where do we stop it?
We stop it when I rule out the one you're talking about with the knee in the back of the head because because it's an accident. But that is a general accident.
So was Dangerfield.
No, I don't see
one
it.
was in the pursuit of the footy. One was going for the footy.
Yeah, I actually do think that they're different. They're separate incidents. But I understand what you're saying about the knee in the back of the head, that type of thing. I think we're always just going to, as tough as that might be for anybody to have experienced that, we have to accept that that is the accident in our game. But if you do go to bump in some way and you make collision either with the shoulder or the head in the act of bumping, no matter how much time you might have that split second, and that is tough, then we have to then say that that's not part of our game.
All I will say is that the risk to cause injury and the risk to cause concussion and the long-term effects, you're much more likely to suffer damage from a knee to the head than you are from what Dangerfield did.
Yeah, which I never want to stop us.
Either do I, Gary.
I haven't spoken yet. No, I don't want to discourage people going for the footy. Patrick wasn't going for the footy. There's the fundamental difference in your argument. One is going for the ball, which is absolutely at the core of our great game. Fly for it, go. The other there was no ball chase involved. And then you start to put in some rules to protect the head. I accept that. Anyway, we move on. Where you and I do agree is I think it's incumbent upon footballers, when you go out there, you make the environment as uncomfortable as you can for your opponent and your opposition. However you do, that's up to you. You might run them from, as Kane used to do, one end of the ground to the other, and that's uncomfortable because the bloke can't run with him. By the end of it, he's sick and he can't. You might do it by kicking 4 goals and a quarter on your defender. That's uncomfortable. And when a player has left the team under the circumstances that Adam Treloar did, then I don't reckon a hug and a cuddle before the bounce is making it uncomfortable.
I don't know whether it's a generation thing. People say it's the new generation. It's what they do. They shake hands before the game, they hug, and then go out there. Stop being so hard on them. But the best teams are hard to play against. And I think we are a nice league now. I think we're a really nice league. You know, shake hands before the game. Not once did I ever shake hands before the game. And yet you hate talking about yourself and what you did, but the opposition didn't do it. To see young Brown, and he's a young player, give Adam Treloar a hug, and you've spoken to Treloar, he's done more media than any player in the off-season. He was seriously nervous about that game on Friday night. He was wondering, he was anxious, as you would be, about the reception that he was going to receive. The moment he got a hug from Brown, it was like, oh, okay. Not one former teammate said anything to me. I'm just going to waltz out here onto the wing. I'm going to take 3 bounces. I'm going to lace out Norton in the first quarter. And all of a sudden, it's 3-0 and Collingwood are behind. It was, and the same goes for Martin, and I've said my piece about Dustin Martin. Take something away from the opposition. We are a nice league, and I think players have to get a bit more mongrel in them.
Well, you know what? You and I are going to agree on something eventually.
Yeah.
Both of you are knuckle-dragging Neanderthals, both of you. The game doesn't start until the siren actually sounds. Like, you can... I don't understand. I always shook hands because that's the way that I was raised when I came through junior football. You shake hands and the game starts when the ball gets bounced and away you go, and then you can resume hostilities after that, and then the game stops again and then it starts again. I don't see anything wrong. I understand what you're saying, right? But I just don't see anything wrong with what they did. And the fact that I think that this generation is very different than, Gary's generation, my generation, your generation. They see each other a lot more around the traps than what we did. They converse with each other a lot. Players are moving from club to club. They might still be living, all that type of thing. I think it's more about, I don't think we should judge them on what they do pre-game. I think it's always about how they play when the game actually starts, what they do when they're out there. There was plenty of time still in the course of the game to niggle, trelaw, do whatever they want. Fair enough. If they didn't do it then and they didn't try and get under their skin, and they should have known him better than anybody out there on the ground on Friday night, the Collingwood players, as to what he didn't like about his football. But that's the time to judge them, I think, not pre-game.
Yeah, so I'm judging it on that as well. I think that it extended into the game, and we saw a few winks and a few smiles during the game. It doesn't sit that comfortable, and it goes through Tom Mitchell getting 17 disposals against Essendon in 1 quarter of footy. I mean, that would be red alert in a coach's box.
Just hold that thought, because we're going to get back to Essendon and Tom Mitchell. I just want to finish off on Collingwood. There was only, I agree wholeheartedly. I don't think, if Adam had put a request in before the game to say, you're nervous about this, Adam? Yeah, I am. He's hard on his sleeve. He's told everyone he's hard on his sleeve, and I don't know how these blokes, they're my mates, I love them, I don't know how they're going to deal with me. Or write down how you want it to be treated and I'll pass it on. Then he got exactly what he wanted. So that's my thought on that. The only person who felt as comfortable as him was Bailey Williams, who at 189 centimetres played on a guy called Mason Cox at 211 centimetres. Gave away, 22 centimetres. I sat on the intersection of the 50-metre zone where we were on Fox on Friday night, had the great view of the forward line. Mason Cox never asked a question of an 189 centimetre Bailey Williams in the area where Bailey least wanted to be. He would have looked at him and gone, my Lord, if I get him up the ground, I'm having a great night. I can run him. I can at ground level. I'll give him a hiding. If he takes me back to the goal square and they kick it in the manner that they have occasionally, I've got no hope. He didn't ask the question. The Collingwood forward setup does not ask a question of the opposition. Their marks from kicks inside 50 sat at 8% on the weekend. They hover around. You wonder why they can't kick goals? They don't hold a forward line ever.
That's instruction then, isn't it?
It is instruction.
That's coaching instruction.
Yeah, so when it continually doesn't work and you don't make an adjustment, you're bloody minded.
Where do you want Mason Cox if you're playing against Collingwood?
On the wing.
Exactly. You don't want him anywhere near the goal. Like if Bailey Williams is playing against him.
Tim, I watched it that closely.
That's right. He's either, and there's a one-on-one. What's he probably going to end up doing?
The best way that I've seen him play is he starts about top of the goal square, and they drop that little nice sort of 35 metre just into the space at the top of about 25 metres out, and he launches. The minute he gets a run up, he's unstoppable. But you're right. I mean, the pressure on the ball was good up the field and all of that, but. Yeah, their forward line I wanted to get to as well. They're the lowest scoring side in round one.
That's right. And going into it, they were the lowest scorer. You go back over their numbers and their ability to score is poor, and then they go too slow, and then they thought, we'll go fast, try to open it up. They had 3 goals against them in the first 10 minutes. They locked the game down. There's 21 inside 50 entries after that for a goal.
It is counterproductive, isn't it, to the way that Nathan Buckley actually philosophically played the game of football himself. That's the bit that I have trouble trying to reconcile is here's a bloke that was probably one of the most attacking footballers we've ever seen, and now his team is set up to play a very defensive, dour brand of football.
And the ones that are going to exploit these new rules and the fatigue and all of that are the teams that are going to be successful. And we saw that on the weekend, the way some teams are moving the ball. That young Sydney side against Brisbane, Collingwood would want to catch up or they're going to be left behind. Are you blokes going to ask me about something positive? Because people say,
Yeah, I will.
You're too
I'll ask you
negative. So I've got some
about
positives.
the worst side that you've seen in 31 years. That was positive for me. I thought Adelaide, my takeaway from that is when you've got a young coach who had such a tough initiation, over summer months, you want to see a sign that he has got them. They played in a manner where I looked at it and said, well, right now, Matthew Nicks has got his team believing in whatever he's selling because they played with this manic fury that I hadn't seen for a long time.
Talk about making it uncomfortable for the opposition. They were one team that made it uncomfortable for Geelong. 30 degrees in Adelaide, young side, pressure ratings, or whatever the stats you want. But if you look at a TV screen and the ball is there, how many Crows players were surrounding that footy or the person with the ball compared to the Geelong players? And then the ability to execute the tackle and the pressure was outstanding. So hats off to the Crows. Hopefully they can continue this for the rest of the year.
This is the SEN Breakfast Footy Review with Gary Lyon, Tim Watson and SENSA's Kane Corns.
And that is the worst intro I've ever heard. We've got to work on that.
Yeah, it's not great.
That's just plain an intro. We at least get a sponsor, for God's sake. Right, okay, no, we've only got you for another 7 or 8 minutes. Give us your awesomes, your ordinaries, and your star performers.
My awesome was Jaden Stevenson. I watched him yesterday and I heard him speak during the year. Never once did they give him a look in the midfield, Collingwood. Not once did they think, oh, this guy's got speed, he's got talent, let's give him a bit of a run in the midfield. Not once. Well, he had 33 career high, 5 clearances career high, 7 tackles, 500 and whatever metres gained.
A wingman? Is he a classic wingman?
Well, yeah, he is a bit, but he's just got talent.
Is he more than just a wingman?
Yeah, I think he eventually he can go inside if he can work on his. He's 22 years of age, his fourth year of footy. Like he's got a lot of upside. So to see that and to North fans, he's going to be there long enough to be there for the rebuild at 22 years of age. So I thought I loved his game, and if I was a Collingwood fan, I'd be, why do we let this bloke go?
Yeah, we just had a caller saying we need some pace through the midfield.
Exactly, they look slow.
Sam Walsh on Thursday night.
Yeah.
We waxed lyrical about him. I know lots of people want to take you to task over what you've had to say about Colin Rosie, but I mean, I think we just celebrate the young talent coming through. His performance on Thursday, I thought, was just reeked of captain and leader and follow me and another step forward.
Tough was what I saw from him. And people want to bring up and the Herald Sun writes articles about what I've said about Carlton taking the wrong bloke. If you speak to St Kilda, they would still keep Max King. You speak to the Western Bulldogs, they'd keep Bailey Smith. Like this is, if you speak to Port Adelaide, they'd keep Butters and Rosie. So you're right. Let's celebrate the great young players that we've got, and that was on display. But to see him go toe-to-toe with Dustin Martin at a centre bounce and make Dusty look stupid, he honestly did. If you go and watch a couple of his second efforts at the centre bounce, huge performance from Walsh, particularly in that first half.
And Travis Boak. Now, we've marvelled at the deeds of Travis Boak. There was a period of time where they thought that what they'd do is they start playing him as a half-forward flanker, Kenny. And I think he had a long, hard, strong conversation with Kenny at the end of that season. He said, mate, I'm a midfielder. Get me back in the guts.
I thought, that's the one way your career starts to go on the decline. As soon as a coach says, you're out of the midfield, let's get some youngsters, let's push you to the half-forward flank, you're getting towards 30, that's where it starts to go. Thank goodness Ken saw the light, because Boakey said during the week, and you got to speak to him regularly, he wants to play till he's 40. So he wants to be eating the avocado ice cream like Tom Brady does and spending a lot of money on his body like LeBron James.
He is our Tom Brady, isn't he? Like not at the level, but in terms of preparation.
100%. And it's lucrative to do that. And we've got advances in technology, sports science, diet, all of that. Why Craig Bradley played his last game at 39. Tim, you played forever. Dustin Fletcher was 40. Sean Burgoyne's 38. Boomer Harvey had plenty left in the tank. He was 38. Why can't we see players playing to their 40? I know it's a different game to the NFL and it's more physical and all of that.
I like it. I like your lateral thinking. I'm going to punch through these. I'm going to get through as much as we can. Why can Tom Mitchell run and have 26 touches in the second half after Merritt in the first half had a similar impact, and then Liam Shields? Now, Clark, I said enough, Liam. You go and sort Zach out. Yet Tom Mitchell runs around as 26.
No, my thoughts on it are that the coaches don't care. In the minute you hear, we'll back our system in, it's lazy. They don't spend enough time. You've had 4 months to prepare for one of the greatest ball winners we've seen in the last 5 years, and you put no time into him. So it's a frustration, but coaches don't care.
It's not going to change.
No.
You've never been able to work out Melbourne, and it's a frustration of yours, and I can hear it in your voice. The anger comes out, and you get a bit irrational. You picked them one day. You picked them for
You get irrational.
1 year you picked them for the wooden spoon. They played in the prelim. Next year you picked them for the premiership, and they finished 10th or 12th.
I've never forgiven them for that.
No. Anything redeeming from their performance?
Well, solid performance and under serious pressure. Imagine we would have been speaking about that. I guarantee.
There's some death riders out for Melbourne. They had their whips out. They were ready to ride them into the ground, Andy Maher and others, but they'll just have to hold fire.
Lever, May, strong. Loved McDonald's performance. Looked fit. Looks hard. Great pre-season, so he'll play a role. And Clayton Oliver. Yeah, I've got a theory on out-of-contract players. Taylor Walker is one of them. Big seasons when they're out of contract, so watch that.
Do you want to do Clayton? Well, you might have to hold your thought on Clayton because we're going to get through this. Kano's going to have to go because once you wind up on Clayton, you might not slow down. Sydney Academy, I'm told from a caller that there were 6 of the 22 came from their academy. Braden Campbell and... They were unbelievable. They were, for me, the exciting fight. Adelaide were the best story. The Swans were the most exciting.
If it wasn't for Adelaide, we'd be speaking about that. The Academy, Goulden's been there since 10. I think I heard on the Fox Footy coverage on the weekend.
10 years of age.
10 years of age, he was in the Swans
I should have
Academy.
played him at 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. And
He's been ready for 5.
no one bid on him in the draft until 32. So what an absolute bargain.
Hey, with Buddy, we talked about this just briefly before. Do you rush him back into... He only played, I think it was a half a game at the weekend. Do you rush him back, or after that performance, do you say, hang on a minute, mate, no, we just need to see a little bit more of you before we bring you back into the team?
Play Adelaide this week. I think they win that at home. I'd give him one more.
One more week to prepare himself.
I don't know his body and all of that, but I'd be pretty cautious. Get him firing for the last 15 games of the season would be a good result.
Drafting players is always problematic. Will Phillips has been taken at 3 for North Melbourne. I'm a big fan of his. Would they have been looking, not North, they'll be backing their man in, but would North supporters have been looking at Logan McDonald running around kicking 3 and looking like he was the next Jared Ruffhead and going, hang on a minute?
I know. I was thinking about this and I don't want to make any bold draft predictions after the Walsh stuff and people having a crack, but you've got a key forward there that you can develop, and you lose Brown. And I was looking at North Melbourne's forward line, and it's a bit of Larkey, it's a bit of Walker, a couple of stopgaps you would think, although I like Larkey. To get a youngster in there, I'm not sure why they wouldn't have drafted that key position player so he can get in and develop.
I don't know if you saw Gold Coast, West Coast last night, Matty Rao, the injury, but there's a lot to like from a Gold Coast. West Coast with Kennedy, Darling and Allen were just imposing in the end and overwhelmed them, but gee, they played well.
They did. I watched a bit of your call. So what's the next step? They get in a lot of positions like that.
They've got to maintain it deeper into the year. They've started well in recent years, but dropped away. So their challenge is to go deeper throughout the year and be competitive at that level for a longer period of time. Hey, we're going to let you go back to your partner Hazy. He's up there. I don't know, he's doing the crossword, but
getting some coffee, I think. Hazy.
We will do this every Monday.
It's very good morning to you if you're just waking up to us at 7 o'clock. Plenty to get through this morning. Let's launch into our Monday wash-up. It is all thanks to the magnificent brand new Mazda BT50. Unbeatable ABN offers on that machine. Andrew Hayes is in fine flying form, the 4-time premiership superstar from the Central Districts Footy Club. Hayes, good morning to you, buddy.
Good morning to you, Kane. Good morning to everybody out there. Get around the weather today across Adelaide. 29 degrees, mostly sunny. It's going to cool down for the rest of the week, so enjoy the sunshine. Just enjoyed my first little version of the Gary and Tim mashup. And just a little insight, Kane. As you were doing that, just got the earphones on, plugged into the SEN app and just listened away. Went down the street, got myself a little coffee. Only coffee store that was opened was the one across the store from McDonald's. I'm talking about on Hindley Street. For all you little gremlins that know what happens at Hindley Street after hours. And something happened to me that's never happened to me before in my life. So I was sitting there with the coffee man, and it's like a bit of an open bar sort of setup where you order your coffee and just wait there. And then a little gentleman comes over to me and he sort of half taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around and he says, "Hey, man," and he's looking around. I thought, oh, what's he going to sell here? This guy is dodgy. What is he going to sell? And he looks around and goes, "Hey, man, do you work out?" and I looked at the coffee bloke. I went, "Oh, what do you mean, mate? Like the gym?" And he goes, yeah, you work out? I went, "Oh, sometimes." And I go, "What's going on here? Am I in trouble?" And he looks around, and I'm not joking. He looks at me and says, I got some good protein for you.
You're kidding.
And he opened up this little sort of half satchel, pulled out this protein, and was like, it's the best on the market, man. I can give it to you for $50. I went, oh, are you serious? No, I'm good, mate. I'm good, mate. The coffee bloke's laughing, and this bloke sort of scurries off, and then the coffee bloke says to me, well, look, I'll tell you what, I've been offered everything under the sun on Hindley Street, but protein is a first.
No, I've never been offered protein. I probably wouldn't trust that protein, Hazy. I don't know. I got a hunch. I'm not sure what's in that protein for $50. You know, I've been offered, artists selling their CDs on Hindley Streets and magazines and all sorts of things. Never been offered protein, although most people would say that I could use some, Hazy, because my body is a bit skinny. If you're thinking of a new home, you'll get more at Weeks. We want you to join in the conversation in our Monday wash-up. We do it each and every Monday, the biggest talking points out of round one, and we'll continue it through the year. 1300 736 736. The Crows won, would you believe? And I said prior to 7 o'clock, top 10 win in club history. I mean, that's how significant it was. Let's hear from the coach, the happy coach, Matthew Nix.
I don't think hope's the right word. It's belief. We're heading in we've still got a lot of work to do. You know, we've still got so much more improvement in us, and it's just, we've got to be really careful that it's not. We've won round one, great start for us, and it's going to give our players belief, our staff belief, our supporters and our members belief, and that's great. Now we need to do it again. So that's going to be the key from here. We'll start preparing for 7 days' time.
Oh, Crows supporters, get involved. 0427 154 166. Or better still, give us a call, 1300 736 736. No one could have tipped this, except for Graham Corns, but he is a raging optimist when it comes to the Crows. But who in their right mind could have sat there and said, you know what, I reckon the Crows can knock off one of the absolute premier favourites? And it happened. And didn't the big crowd at Adelaide Oval just absolutely lap it up? It's really good for football in South Australia. It's really good for everyone involved.
Were you there, and what was it like? What was it like going to the footy in 2021? Is it any different? Because the crowd made a lot of noise, and the Crows fans were really optimistic about just seeing some signs and some glimpses from some of these young players, not what they pulled off on the weekend. And where does it rank in terms of Adelaide wins in their history? What I noticed was the swarming pressure, and that is, and I said it on the footy show yesterday, it's nothing to do about what pick you were drafted or how much talent you've got in the list, or are you the youngest list in the competition, which they are. It's got nothing to do with that. When the ball is there, how hard do you want to hunt that footy and put your head over it and win it? And then conversely, when the opposition have got it, how much do you want to hunt them, make life uncomfortable for them, tackle, pressure, harass, scrag? They did all of that, and not only did they do it for a quarter, they did it for a whole game in 30-degree heat with one less rotation against a side that played off in the grand final last year. So I can't underestimate what a significant performance that was from the Adelaide Footy Club. And you heard it from Matty Nix. It's early days, and it's a long season, and the young players will tire, all of that. But it was awesome. And your man, Taylor Walker, turned back the clock.
Jeez, wasn't Tex good? 5 goals. And this is a bloke who, many of the experts a few months ago saying, well, how can Tex, where does he fit in this forward line? How does he get a game? Well, he is absolutely. And before the weekend as well, off the back of the preseason form, Tex probably first picked, or first 2 or 3 picked. And obviously now it is, righto, how do we build a forward line around Tex? He was just magnificent. Let's hear from the coach.
His legacy at this footy club is going to be huge. What he's doing now is he's making these players better around him. And part of that is playing at a level and training at a level like he did throughout the off-season. So he deserves everything that he got today. And that's off the back of hard work, working with our younger guys to improve. It's making him a better footballer. It's incredible how prioritising others can help. What will help prolong Tex's career is a team that plays around him the way they did today. And he's the beneficiary of some really good footy, but he's also part of the reason why we're playing some really good footy.
He looks fit. He certainly doesn't look like he's struggling or he's old. He looks athletic. And the best thing about Taylor Walker's game, in my opinion, is that if he has 6 or 7 kicks, if he has 4 shots at goal, there's a very good chance that he's going to kick 4 goals. And the other kicks that he puts up, he's the best field kicker for a big man in the competition. So when he gets a touch, geez, he makes it count.
Yeah, left and right too. He's probably the best set shot from outside 50 now in the competition. Well done to him. And that was an unbelievable performance from Taylor Walker. I did like the smaller forward line. I mean, how many shows have we dedicated, or sections of shows have we dedicated to which way the Crows are going to go in their forward line? And the last minute they've gone small, and that allowed them to bring the pressure on to Geelong. So if I was Darcy Fogarty, if I was Himmelberg, and if I was Thilthorpe, I'd be thinking, gee, how am I going to get into this Crows forward line? They hadn't kicked 100 points, Adelaide, since round 17, 2019. They kicked 111, I think it was, on the weekend. Matthew Nicks is such a defensive coach. But finally, it feels like he's now equally weighting the offensive stuff with the defensive stuff. He spoke about the way that he wants to play and also the way that he's building the Crows brand of footy.
Ultimately, we're working to build a brand of footy. That's what we're trying to do. What comes with that when you're starting that out is inconsistency. So as a coach, I feel coming into every game, as every one of our players does, that we can win the game of footy. It'd be a worry if you didn't think that. But there's also a reality of the consistency of what a younger team will do against an older team. It's just the statistics will say that's how it is. I was really confident today that we had the game that we could take it up to Geelong. It was a matter of whether we could implement that for 4 quarters, and I felt like we did. In fact, we even changed our game, due to some injury. So now the key now is 7 days' time. We have another challenge, and we've got to be able to do it again. But we will also we'll enjoy this, as I hope our members and our supporters will really enjoy this and say, well, there it is. That's the brand of footy that they may have been talking about 6 months ago. Now it's consistency. Show it again next week.
And you know what it means? It means that every single player that played on the weekend at Adelaide Oval, that game review that they're having today, everyone's about 20, 25 minutes early.
Makes a difference. Oh, it absolutely makes a difference. Some of the Crows' young players, we saw James Rowe, not that he's young, but, he looks comfortable at the level, as we knew that he would, because we've seen him play and you've watched him a lot, Hazy, against men, and he was, you thought, going to be comfortable. Berry was terrific, like most pressure acts on the ground. Sam Berry in his first game. If I was a raging optimist for Adelaide, which some people would say I haven't been, and that's fair enough. I'm happy to take that criticism, like I'm getting on the text machine this morning. If I was a raging optimist, I'd look at this. The first pick in the last 5 drafts, their first pick, didn't play. So Gallucci's not going to help him. He was the first pick in 2016. He's gone. But 2017, pick 12, Fogarty, didn't play. 2018, pick 9, Jones, didn't play. Pick 6, 2019, Maxey didn't play. And pick 2 last year, Thilthorpe, didn't play. I mean, there's some elite picks. 3 of them are top 10 picks. Fogarty's pick 12, and they all didn't play. There is a lot of room still for improvement and talent to come back into the side when those 4 get themselves into form. So that's what I'd be really excited about if I was an Adelaide supporter.
Went and had a look as well at the sample game between the Crows and Woodville West Torrens. Eagles were up by about 70, I reckon, midway through the third quarter. So they are absolutely red hot. Thilthorpe looked really good. Like, he is classy for a big man. His skills, the way he moves, like, he looked really nice. Fogarty kicked a couple in the first half. Second half, he spent time in the midfield. So is that the next step? Good. Is it the only step, potentially, for Darcy Fogarty, where he's at?
He needs to develop a different area to his game, because lead out, chest mark, kick a goal will work a couple of times, but then he won't be involved for the rest of the game. So if he can get fit, learn the midfield craft, throw his weight around in there, then look out. But time's running out, unfortunately, for Darcy. And I know that's a harsh call, but will he be able to develop that different aspect to his game? We will wait and see. Patrick Dangerfield's off to the tribunal, Hazy. He was involved in an incident with Adelaide's Jake Kelly where Dangerfield, in the middle of the ground, opted to turn his body. I didn't think it was a vicious bump. I thought he was more looking to protect himself. Certainly his shoulder didn't hit Kelly in the head, but his head did. And the rules will say if you choose to bump, you are responsible for the consequences, even though they are an accident. But we're getting into dangerous areas, I think, if we are completely ruling out any accidents in a game of AFL footy where you have to make split-second decisions, and I thought he was more so trying to protect himself than he was trying to hurt Kelly.
This is the nail in the coffin for me. And if I'm a coach and I'm developing some youngsters coming through, I'm not teaching them how to bump. I'm not telling them that the bump exists. Why would you bump? Off the back of that, why in any situation would you use the bump in Australian football where even when you try, even when you, no, well, he wasn't protecting himself, he was going after him. But even when he was trying to put a little hip and shoulder on, even if you just get it wrong just a little bit, even if it's head on head, I mean, Patrick Dangerfield didn't show it, but he got his head smashed as well, and he's potentially going to miss 2 weeks. Like, it's just, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I'm on your side with this one.
Yeah, it's so easy for footy fans, for commentators to... I haven't seen this Dangerfield incident replayed in fast time. Like, everyone's played it in slow motion. So good on you. Stop the frames of the camera down to slow motion and watch it. Well, that's good. How about you play it in fast motion when you've got one of the fastest players in the competition, one of the most powerful, running full speed? He doesn't know he's not going to get to the footy until split second. Kelly's running flat out the other way. So you turn your body to try and protect yourself and you hit heads and you're going to get probably 4 weeks. He's off to the tribunal. It's been graded as severe. I can't cop a player missing 4 weeks for that. I just can't. And we play a physical game. Players sign a form to say they put themselves at risk whenever you go out there. We're really getting into dangerous areas if a player's going to miss 4 weeks for an incident that had no malice whatsoever and I thought was trying to protect himself.
So if there's no high contact at all, what happens?
Nothing.
Well, then clearly there's got to be some leeway. I know if you choose to bump, and even if you make accidental contact, that's the ruling. If you make accidental contact, no matter what it is, no matter if it was the top of his head, if it was his headgear, and Kelly's in trouble, then you're in trouble. Then why would you bump? It's too risky because, like you said, it's so quick, it's so in the moment. A slight bit of play in the wrong direction or slightly ill-timed, so slightly ill-timed, and all of a sudden Dangerfield's on the sideline for 2 to 3 weeks. It's not worth it.
Get involved, 17 minutes past 7 o'clock. Port fans, we don't forget you. We did not neglect you because there was some pretty positive stuff to come out of their game against North Melbourne yesterday. I was there. I'll give you my thoughts as well as Hazy's and yours on 1300 736 736 on the other side of this.
We're doing it thanks to Weeks as well. Weeks' $25,000 cash discount is helping more families build their dream home, so enjoy more. Visit Weeks. 29 degrees, mostly sunny across Adelaide today right now. Touch over 18 degrees in the city.
22 minutes past 7 o'clock. Kane and Hazy with you through until 8:30. Michelangelo Rucci very shortly. Nathan Bassett from Port Adelaide after 8 o'clock. And your calls on 1300 736 736. Hazy is in the Lumo SA studio, number 1 King William Street in the city. I am in Victoria. Hazy, the other result was a good one as well. Good weekend for the South Australian teams.
It really was. Port Adelaide 117 to North 65. 52-point win for Port Adelaide. A little bit scrappy in the first quarter. North actually took a 2-point lead, and then the next couple of quarters, particularly the second, I think it was 8 goals to 1. Port Adelaide absolutely put their foot down. Probably in cruise control in the last quarter. The back of Travis Boak, he's still got it. Boys look really good. It was a well-polished performance, enough to make you go, yep, they're performing. That was a round 1 performance you would expect from a team that a lot of the experts are saying could win it all.
Let's hear from the coach, Ken Hinkley, about how he saw the game against North Melbourne yesterday.
Good win, round 1. Gets things rolling for us. It's always a challenge. Round 1, you're never quite sure. We've seen over the weekend it's been a little bit strange to read. Disappointed that we're a little bit slow to get going, or to North's credit, they were quicker to get going than us, but then we were able to adjust, make some adjustments, and the boys identified it pretty quickly. When I spoke to them at quarter time, they knew exactly what they were probably most concerned with, and they went to work and got it right in the second and third quarter. And then the last quarter, I think we've seen all weekend the fatigues played a factor in that last quarter, makes it hard for everyone.
New recruits as well. Alir looked really good. And Orazio Fantasia. A few texts already coming in this morning on 0427 154 166. Is he a sneaky Coleman chance? That's the general vibe of the text.
8 shots on goal. So his career high is 39, which he kicked for Essendon in 2017. He stays fit. He smashes that. He just knows where the goals are. And I always marvelled at those forwards who could just read the play and know exactly where the ball was going to land in the forward line and have that goal sense. I just never had it. And some players got it and some players don't. He just knows where the goals are. And, it's like Eddie Betts can just have a shot for goal and know where the goals are. He's just an unbelievable happy knack of finding them. Fantasia's got a bit of that about him. You watch him run to the right spot every time at the fall of the ball in the forward line. He's a bit of a freak and he reads it quicker than anyone. So, if you could have put him into any team in the competition after he left Essendon, I reckon Port Adelaide would have been number one, and they got him, and he's going to be a huge recruit for him, provided they stay on top of that soft tissue stuff. But at the moment, so far, so good. Tom Rockcliffe missed out, which wasn't a surprise to me, Hazy, but, with his form last year, it's a pretty harsh call. He was a medical sub, came on for the injured Riley Bonner. Ken Hinkley explained his decision on the veteran Tom Rockcliffe.
We went with what we thought was the next best player available for us, and Tom, if the sub hadn't been, Tom probably would have missed selection. So we went with the next best player. We think that what Tom, obviously, his football smarts is incredible, and I think he would have been really helpful for his teammates whilst they were coming off the ground. So I looked at it as an advantage whilst he was sitting on the bench, and then when we put him into the game, we know he's going to be able to find the footy. He does it pretty easily, find the footy, but so. I was hoping, because I hope that we don't have to use that position often at all. I hope injuries don't happen.
First big example, isn't it? Tight for spots. It's a class midfield, but across the ground.
So Bonner's looked like a pretty nasty hammy. Like if you've done hammies, Hazy, I haven't. But if you can't really walk off the ground and you're really limping, it's got 4 weeks all over it. So the report from the Sandford game against Sturt on Friday night was that a couple of reasonable performances. Woodcock was okay, but no one banged the door down for selection from that game on Friday night. But they've got Lockie Jones there, who you would think is the like for like. You've got Hamish Hartlett, if he's fit, that could replace him. And Ken Hinkley says that Connor Rosie's right to go this week.
We're bullish that he'll be available for next Saturday. He did some bike on Thursday, he ran on Saturday, and he should progress from there Tuesday and Thursday. And part of our planning with the surgery was to get some football into him, so if everything went well, which it did, we'd be able to fast track him pretty quick. And but we won't rush him; he'll have to be right. But I've got to sit here and say I'm pretty excited about Connor Rosie coming back into our team. He adds a bit.
Yeah, he adds a fair bit, it must be said. On Lockie Jones as well, all reports didn't play in the second half. Went down and had a look at him in the first half. He's just a bull. It's just ridiculous how well he moves and how strong he is for a kid. He didn't play in the second half because he's got a bit of a hamstring issue. So, and Ken Hinkley said after the captain's run that might be a little bit unlikely that he plays next week. So he won't probably get a go. But if Connor Rosie came back in, I'm sure that's a pretty reasonable swap.
Yeah, you can it's not a like-for-like swap, but they're good enough that they can shuffle some of the magnets around as well. Or, Rockcliffe just plays and they put someone else. They might use Rosie as the medical sub if he's, maybe not ready to go for a full game, but there as a handy player to come in. So all looking rosy at Port Adelaide, pardon the pun there.
Well done.
But I guess, I didn't even mean to do that. I guess the challenge for them is, it's been a really soft pre-season for them, hasn't it? Through absolutely no fault of their own. Like Adelaide were horrific twice when they played against them, albeit Port Adelaide were good. Then you get a bottom 4 side in North Melbourne into what is probably going to be a bottom 6 side in Essendon at home, which they win. So I really am looking forward to seeing how they go in round 3 against West Coast at Optus. No one wins in Perth historically. So that'll be a challenge for them. And then Richmond, that Friday night game at Adelaide Oval in round 4 will be when the real test comes and when we can make some really accurate assessments about how far Port Adelaide can go. But right now, you'd be pretty happy to be Ken Hinkley, and all of the Port Adelaide players will speak to Nathan Bassett about that after 8 o'clock.
That's going to be a good game, isn't it? That one against Richmond. Absolute. And we could almost pencil that in as an early season grand final preview. But, West Coast weren't overly convincing last night against Gold Coast, but on top of that, what can you read into round 1? There were so many upsets across the board, and going into the game yesterday, because of those upsets, you started to think there and go, well, based on this, are North a sneaky chance here? Because, like people have suggested this morning, if you're a side that is supposed to battle, And this is when you want one of the top sides.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, how quickly? And we're just going to get text through here from Daniel on 0427 154 166. How crazy is it? People are saying the draw has now opened up for the Crows. Sydney, Gold Coast, North, Freo, Hawks and GWS at home. I reckon we spoke about this, though, didn't we? We said, that's going to be the really important stretch for them because I didn't think they'd beat Geelong. No one did. But then they did have a lot of winnable games, and that was going to be the important stretch for them. So, great opportunity. I mean, if they can be, I don't know, split their games 3-3 after 6, or even better 4-2. What a start from where we thought they perhaps would be.
All right, get involved. Keep those texts coming through 0427 154 166. We are doing it this morning as well. Thanks to Tyre Power. Massive Easter sale. Biggest brands, best prices. We're going to speak to Michelangelo Rucci straight after the news with John Michael, which happens right now.
Party people! Rooch, here he is. Rooch, here he is. Hey! Rooch, shakalaka, shakalaka, shakalaka. Rooch.
Well, a man who would have been sitting in the media box having perhaps a Diet Coke and a sandwich would have witnessed one of the more stunning results in Adelaide Football Club history. Michelangelo Rucci, Kimbo on the Rooch from 3:30 this afternoon. Morning to you, Rooch. How about that?
Hello, Kane. Good morning, Andrew. No, it wasn't diet. I always do full strength, so I assure you of that.
The real stuff.
And I'll tell you what, it was real stuff at Adelaide Oval. I've not felt that sort of energy come off the terraces of a Crows game for a long, 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 long time. And you can understand why they got on their feet at quarter time and gave the team a standing ovation. They were seeing something that probably was only in their prayers when they first walked into that ground, because the form lines leading into that game were extraordinarily different. But pre-seasons, again, proved to be absolutely worthless. And you give young men a challenge, you give them some faith, you tell them to go out there and do a job, and Matthew Nicks has got the result he wanted. Now, it was extraordinary. The revival of Taylor Walker.
Where's it? I said top 10 in their history, and that's just a bit off the cuff without going historically through their 30 years of history.
Yeah.
But it was that good that it could easily push into the top 10 in their history.
Well, when you consider the background to it, that they'd had a terrible pre-season, they were holding the wooden spoon, they were coming up against the grand finalist, lack of confidence in the way in which their lineup looked when you saw it on paper. It's a phenomenal result. Yeah, you're right. You'd have to go through all 30 years. There've been some upsets before with Adelaide, but if you were to put it in the upset category, it's going to be in a top 5, because the level of expectation on that game was, well, how could they actually narrow the margin to actually not make it an embarrassing loss? They've come up with a phenomenal win, and funnily enough, when it actually was about putting on a score, they actually look quite good to watch, don't they?
They look
still
potent.
Playing a defensive lockdown game. They just put up the scoreboard, got past the 100-point barrier, and they look entertaining.
It was just play on at all costs as well, Rooch. It was just a nice, attractive, really quick brand of footy, and get it in nice and quickly to Taylor Walker, because he is so deadly with that boot. And just on Taylor Walker, it seems ridiculous now that only a few months ago, a lot of experts questioning whether he gets a game for the Crows this year.
Well, he has certainly lived up to that theme that Matthew Nicks put upon him. Make sure it is very hard for anyone to take your spot, which is now going to challenge every one of those younger forwards at Adelaide to actually step up their game and actually push him out of the side. It's not going to be easy.
Well, how, Rooch? I mean, the likes of Himmelberg, Darcy Fogarty as a forward, Thilthorpe.
Well, they've got to step up. They've got to just work harder and harder and harder to actually make it. What do they want to sit in the reserves for the rest of their life? They're going to have to accept the challenge. Get on with it.
Yeah, I said if I'm glass half full, there would be that there 4 first-round high draft picks didn't play on the weekend, so plenty of room for some talent to come through if Jones and Fogarty and Thilthorpe and Mackesy can get themselves in form. Rooch, one of the biggest issues to come out of that game was Patrick Dangerfield being sent to the tribunal, facing certainly a 3 minimum, perhaps 4 weeks suspension. There's now no room for accidents in football. How did you see it?
First thought was, why did he do it? There was just nothing to gain from the bump, and that's probably where a lot of players they're going to have to reset their whole theme or how they play the game. Is there any value in the bump? What was he going to gain from the bump?
Well, he doesn't realise he's not going to get the footy in until the split second. What else can he do? He can't just pull out, because we'll say, well, how about Dangerfield, the example he said he pulled out.
Yeah,
so what he's done is turned his body and tried to protect him. He's hit heads. Like, he hasn't cleaned him up shoulder to head. I just have some sympathy for players who now will literally start to second guess themselves. Imagine if he missed a grand final for a head clash and an accident.
But we also live in an environment where as soon as a player is concussed or has a broken nose or as the stretcher comes upon, there is going to be a level of accountability. And he will go to the tribunal, Patrick Dangerfield, and he'll face a QC over the other side who will go through a range of options that he supposedly had in a split second. But generally from here, people will now say, why would you bump?
Well, that's the question, Rooch. And I'd put that to you. If you're teaching Australian rules to a youngster or someone abroad, how do you explain the bump? What is it there for, and who initiates it, and what is the point of it?
Well, it's a highly risky move now. Very, very, very risky. But at the same time, you've got a code, along with so many other sports, that see lawyers in the grandstand who take notes.
Yeah.
So
well,
which way are you going? Which way are you going to turn here?
Where do we draw the line? Do we stop Dan Houston driving his knee into the head of Taylor?
Very good question.
Who concussed him? The risk of injury to exactly, Hazy. That's where we're getting to. Can't raise your knees, which completely makes the high mark extinct. So I just think you want to be really careful, because what makes our game great is, one, the highlights, the goals, the high marks, and two, the physicality. We may lose both.
I'm glad you brought the Dan Houston one up, because when this concussion debate with the bump began 2-3 years ago, we would be loaded with calls with people saying, well, what about the bloke who puts his knee into the back of the head of someone when he's taking a mark? Is he now at risk? Well, how do you know? I mean, you would say that Dan Houston moment is just part and parcel of a contest involving a mark. Now, is he going to be held accountable because by accident he concusses a player? If you're going to follow through with the full logic of what the AFL is saying, well, Dan Houston might have something to answer for as well. Now, if you go to that length, well, we're at an interesting point then, aren't we, with Australian football?
There goes the high mark. What do you make of Port Adelaide, as expected?
Yeah, I thought pretty well you knew what North Melbourne was going to bring at the beginning. David Noble certainly energised a young group, and he'd be sitting there saying, but for 20, 25 minutes, it was some sort of contest. But, gee, it's a better Port Adelaide side than it was last year. And there's no doubt that Aliir at the back gives them some extra stuff in defence, and Orazio Fantasia in attack gives them the ability to mop up anything that doesn't get into Charlie Dixon's hands. I liked the fact that Todd Marshall has more influence on a footy game. And Travis Boak, I mean, I wanted to get out the AFL Bible and just double check what his age was. I mean, doesn't look like a player who, as soon as he blew out the candles on his 30th birthday, said, well, that's the end of my career.
No, that's almost the new age player now, isn't it? Play into your sort of mid-30s. He looks absolutely cherry ripe. Hey, text that's just come in fresh, Rooch, 0427154166 from Jeff saying, Rooch, did we see you hand an envelope to Chris Scott before his presser? What's going on there?
Well, yeah, does everyone need to know everything that goes on at a footy game?
Yes.
No, well, you can't know the answer to that one.
How was he, Chris? He would have been pretty upset about that performance, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, I think he's been sent home with a lot to think about. And we're going to now hear the same old things about Geelong, whether they can start well after a bye. I mean, let's be real, there was a bye before this game. Are they too old? Are they too slow? Have they bought the wrong players? There's going to be a heap of questions about Geelong, but I'll be intrigued as to where they actually finish at the end of the year, because we know they're still a very good side, but is there just something missing about Geelong?
Rich, pretty hard to get a genuine read on the competition after one round.
One game. Yeah.
But from the weekend...
Who saw Sydney? Who saw Sydney doing
exactly,
that?
Exactly. Tipsters, punters. You would have loved that one. So from the
If
weekend...
I'd said to you when we were previewing the round that Sydney would be the highest scoring team of the weekend, what would have you done? Would have you called for the straightjacket?
No, you would have.
And Collingwood would be the lowest scoring team from the whole of the competition.
Well, Collingwood has had an issue with scoring for some time, Kane. That one wouldn't have really put me into, wow, something's gone wrong there.
And everyone after that Sydney game, Roach, of course, is singing this.
Oh, Errol, I would give anything just to be like him. How good was he?
Oh,
Errol Goulden. He was picked 32 in the draft. He's been in the Swans Academy since he was 10, and he kicks 3 on debut and looked like he'd played 100 games. It was amazing. Hey, Rich, just before we let you go, what was some of your other highs and lows from the first weekend of footy?
Oh, gee, it was a weekend of extraordinary results, wasn't it? Probably the delight in seeing Melbourne achieve a result where, there's a fair bit of pressure there. The Adelaide game, just what Adelaide Oval felt like, with 40,000 people back in it, was the real highlight. The low remains Matt Rowell. How low does that get?
I know.
When we thought, okay, he didn't get the Rising Star last year because of a shoulder, now a knee. The game just does throw up some curveballs, doesn't it, at times? And Andrew, one big question for you.
Yes, please.
Are you in favour of the one-off for the America's Cup between New Zealand and England off the Isle of Wight?
Well, what's the America's Cup again, Hazy?
Oh, that's some kind of speedboat race, isn't it?
Oh, dear.
Good on you, Rooch. We'll hear Kimbo and the Rooch 3:30 to 5:30 driving you home this afternoon. If you want to have your say on anything that the Rooch or we just said, get involved. You can join in as well. 1300 736 736. If you're thinking of a new home, you'll get more at Weeks. Hazy up next. All the footy news will tell you what's happening at your club with our footy shorts next.
And that text line 0427 154 166. 29 degrees across Adelaide today. It'll be mostly sunny. Right now it's 19 degrees in the city. Good morning.
Oh, that's the thing about, that's what I like about, yeah, that's the thing about football.
Well, with round one done, it's time to tell you what's happening at your footy club as we get through all of the news post round one, and we will start at Port Adelaide. They are on top of the ladder where they finished the home and away season last year after their 51-point win over North Melbourne. Despite a slow start, the Power dominated after quarter time with new recruit Orazio Fantasia Brian Taylor kicking 4 goals. He had 8 shots. He kicked 4-4. Riley Bonner was the only negative from Port's performance. He injured a hamstring. We're going to speak to Nathan Bassett after 8 o'clock. We'll find out the severity of that hammy injury to Riley Bonner.
In other Sunday matches, St Kilda kicked 4 of the last 5 goals to down the Giants in the wet by 8 points. And West Coast wrapped up round one with a hard-fought 25-point win over a determined Gold Coast Suns. In another blow, Matt Rowell injured his knee, and we'll have scans today. Rowell was returning from his first game since a serious shoulder injury. They're hopeful that it's PCL, not ACL. If it is PCL, then perhaps he misses sort of 10 weeks-ish, and he gets the second half of the year. But there goes a lot of people's Rising Star predictions.
Gee, that's rough. And you're onto something, because you picked Tanner Bruin for the Rising Star. Everyone else had Matt Rowell, so Hazy just old Nostradamus over here.
I just got a feeling.
Patrick Dangerfield certainly going to miss matches after he has been referred directly to the tribunal for his hit on former housemate. How about that? Cop that, Jake. Thanks for the hospitality. He was out before he hit the ground, wasn't he, Jake Kelly? But it was a sickening incident. So he's going to head to the tribunal tonight after the MRO boss, Michael Christian, assessed it as intentional head clash and careless and a hit with severe force. Kelly's heavy concussion and broken nose elevated the contact from high to severe. The tribunal can make its own judgment on punishment, but the base suspension for a careless severe force hit to the head is 3 or more weeks. And even if Geelong successfully argued to downgrade the hit from severe to medium, I don't think it's medium. Dangerfield's certainly going to miss at least 2 weeks. So they're playing Brisbane. One of them's going to be 0-2, and Geelong are going in without Menegola, without Dangerfield, and without Mitch Duncan and Jeremy Cameron. So 4 of their maybe best 12 out. Big game in that one.
Ooh, could be a rough start to the year for the Cats.
Yeah.
Brisbane's Joe Danaher was charged with striking Swan Dane Rampy. It was graded as careless conduct, low impact and high contact. In summary, he can accept a $2,000 sanction with an early plea. That's not the ideal start for Joe Danaher off the back of his 2-goal performance in a loss to the Swans. Thought he was going to kick 8 and Brisbane were going to win by 60.
Yeah, like kicked the first 3 goals of the game. You thought, oh, gee, how good's this Brisbane side? Danaher's going to end up with 8, as you said. But no. We underestimated the Sydney Swans. Let's stay with them because Lance Franklin could end his AFL games drought as early as this week against the Crows after the Sydney superstar crucially emerged unscathed from a reserve scratch match. Franklin, who's been hampered by soft tissue injuries over the past 2 years, made a return to competitive footy on Saturday. Played 60 minutes in a soggy Swans-Giants reserve practice match. How about the rain up there in your old neck of the woods, Hazy? Unbelievable. Franklin, who has missed 2 seasons, has 2 seasons remaining on that lucrative $10 million deal, needs 56 more goals to become the 6th player in VFL AFL history to reach the 1,000-goal milestone. You would have thought he would have cruised to that milestone, Hazy. Now, 56 goals in 2 years with his injury history. It's going to be tough.
Oh, he's going to limp there, isn't he, if he does get there? But still, I mean, what an absolute champion. Looking forward to that as well. If he gets back, like I've said, still right now, I mean, for me, it's Dusty Martin and Lance Franklin, particularly in a comeback game. Looking forward to the great man getting back in. And saying that for the Crows, this is when you want Lance Franklin. His first game back, and it feels like forever.
If you're going to get him, you want him now.
Yeah. NTFL Grand Final, that was held on Saturday night between the Nightcliff Tigers. They defeated St Mary's by 7 points in extra time. Nightcliff were down by 19 points, ticking into time on in the final quarter. Former Port Adelaide player John Butcher marked it 10 metres out from goal before booting it through to level the scores at 1 or 2 apiece. There was only 6 seconds left to play, forcing the game into extra time. Tigers going on to win by 8 points. That was a thriller. Love NT footy as well. That is an exciting brand of footy.
The future, John Butcher, just kicking the sealer. How good. What a cult hero. Your favourite cult heroes, 0427 154 166. Johnny Butcher was certainly one of those. Now it's time for our women's sports update thanks to MEGT, your local apprenticeship experts. If you need an apprentice or a trainee, get a flying start and team up with MEGT today. The AFLW, as we've spoken about, Adelaide has stormed into the finals with a comprehensive 56-point win over the Bulldogs. Ebony Marinoff had 24 possessions for the Crows. They did confirm the finals berth, 78-22 at Nord Oval. Now, Adelaide will host Collingwood to finish the minor round, while the Dogs will take on Richmond, needing a win and results to go their way to make the final 6. And Hazy, that was our footy shorts.
Well done to the girls. Congratulations, finals bound. They are looking very, very sharp. 3rd premiership in 5 years. Absolutely is on the cards. Hey, let's go through our player of the round as well, Kane. We'll do that thanks to Repco. For expert service you can rely on, visit repcoservice.com. 3 options for you. Dusty Martin, 31 touches, 7 marks, 5 clearances, 2 goals. Lit it up when it mattered most. Bailey Smith in that win over the Pies, 36 disposals, 8 marks. Or Callum Mills in that Swans win over Brisbane, 29 disposals, 8 marks, 2 goals. A lot of the Swans boys go under the radar.
Well, I was waiting for the Taylor Walker option. I was going to give it to my old mate Tex. But out of those 3, I love Bailey Smith. Go to his Instagram. He's got about 190,000 Instagram followers. He's got the best mullet in football, and he's got the best set of abs you've ever seen. Like, honestly, it's a work of art, and he can seriously play football. He's tough. So I thought he was exceptional. I love the fact that he pushed forward and hit the scoreboard. So let's give it to him, can we?
All right, we can give it to Bailey Smith.
Good set of abs, Hazy. Check it out. You like it.
Okay, I must. What a hook. But get involved, 0427 154 166, because I would have thought there'd be plenty of punters out there that would argue that maybe Dusty was in the mix, because that's what Dusty Martin does. He turns up on big stages and wins games.
Dusty fatigue. I've got a bit of Dusty fatigue.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing, mate. Come on. He's the LeBron James, and that's what's happening. We're getting sick of it and give it to someone else. He's elite. That thing with Nick Rewald he did as well on Fox Footy. Have you seen that?
I saw the promos. I haven't listened. I haven't watched it, but I've seen the promos. I will go back and check it out.
All right, your text, your calls, get them through. The text line 0427 154 166. Port Adelaide assistant coach Nathan Bassett. He's going to join us in just a couple of minutes' time. And we're going to catch up with Meredith Gibbs before that for the 8 o'clock news. Good morning.
Yeah, it's 3 minutes past 8 o'clock. If you missed any of our show this morning, you can catch up on the podcast. We stopped by and spoke to Gary and Tim for half an hour. Michelangelo Rucci moments ago. It'll all be available on the podcast. Hazy is at SENSA's Studio Lumo, and I am in Melbourne, where I witnessed Port Adelaide pretty clinically take care of North Melbourne yesterday. One of their senior assistant coaches is our next guest and good friend of the show. Wonder if he's in a good mood this morning. Nathan Bassett. Bass, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Not a problem.
Happy with that performance?
Yeah, I think we're good to get the win and get the first game out the way. There's some good stuff in there with some areas that we need to work on.
Contest was on early, Bass, and then quarter time it all changed, and that second quarter was just beautiful to watch. A situation like that, does something need to be said in particular at quarter time, where you've got such a well-polished group? Do they just sort of kick into gear?
No, I think the first quarter was certainly frustrating in terms of getting beaten on the inside. We gave away some sloppy free kicks, and the ball was played, or the game was played at the wrong end of the ground. So. It was good to make some adjustments. We made a bit of a structural adjustment at quarter time, and that certainly helped in the second quarter.
Hey, Bass, I thought some of your transition was almost like a training drill, to be fair, and it looks great, but I imagine there's a lot of work that's gone into that. The breakdown of your defensive structures versus how you want to move the ball, is it 50-50 at training? Like, take us inside that, because at times it looked clinical yesterday, your ball movement.
Yeah, we're always working on all facets of our game, and you'll spend a week or two in one space, and then move on to the next, and then come back. We try not to focus too much on a problem area, but more just keep working on our game rather than what was the issue last week. So certainly our offense has been growing. I thought our back half transition was very good. It was more. Probably keeping the ball in our front half a little bit longer, that would have been a good result. But certainly once we got the ball on the outside, our high forwards are very good at getting out and giving great shape on the ground and using the footy effectively.
Yeah, speaking of those forwards, you went with 3 talls. You didn't do that in the second pre-season game against the Crows. Georgiades came off the bench after half-time. Will that be the set, or will you just sort of rotate that depending on your opposition, Marshall, Laddams and Dixon, with Georgiades waiting for his spot as well?
Yeah, it's more what we've done, certainly last year and the end of 19, we've had more 3 talls. It was the last game of the pre-season. It was a little bit more because, we knew Rosie wasn't going to play round 1, and we wanted Farrell to play to give him, a chance to play a full game of AFL. So we went with the 2. So we normally go with 3. I mean, it's something we can potentially tinker with if we're not getting the effect that we need out of the tools. But Georgiades, he's still working on his game, but he's got some great attributes, and I think with all those younger, taller guys, we've still got to remain patient in a way. Todd, Pete and Georgiades have about 60 games of AFL footy between them. So, I know they've all got some great talents, but it's not always easy to execute early in your career.
Hey, Bass, we'll go through the 3 club debutants on the weekend. First of all, Alir probably wasn't as big in the air as he was in the trial match against the Crows, but he seems like that's his spot and he's fitted in seamlessly.
Yeah, he was solid enough. It was probably unusual that it was almost like a wet weather game. I think the roof had been left open during the night and it had rained, and then it was sort of the players talked about it being very slippery and being almost like a sauna because it got wet and then the roof had shut. So it certainly didn't suit him as much. And he dropped a couple of marks. I think Miles was. He was pretty solid in his first game. Got himself into some good positions, got his hands on the ball. Maybe didn't kick the ball quite as well as he would have liked. Rutzia had a strong first game.
How does that happen? Did the AFL, have they spoken to Port or have they spoken to North Melbourne? How does the roof get left open at Marvel Stadium and then you turn up and you effectively have to play wet weather football?
Yeah, not quite sure. So, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't have an answer.
No, it's ridiculous. That's what it is.
You go find one.
I'm on it.
It's embarrassing, Bass. It's exciting. Like you come on and you're very methodical and you're very clinical with your responses. But do you get a chance to get excited by what this group is capable of producing? Because there was some moments yesterday where you thought this is the way football should be played, and you're in charge of this group or one of key figures in charge of it. Do you dare to think how good this year could be for you?
I always like the idea of a beautiful game. Certainly read enough around the round ball game to talk about what the shape looks like on the field, and I think that's the excitement around the high forwards. To add Connor to that high forward group next week when certainly for Motts having Orazio and Connor and Butters around, even now Connor and Butters being more mature, it's a really exciting, talented team with some great leg speed and ball use and finishing ability, and we're sort of adding them a little bit more in the midfield, and we probably see them as our competitive advantage along with our very strong defence.
I guess the only negative was Riley Bonner, and Ken's spoken about how strong his pre-season was and the fact that, he had a moment there where some other clubs might have been sniffing around, and was he in the best 25 players at the club? Was he going to get a spot across half-back? Well, maybe not, so he went to the wing, bit of half-forward yesterday even, but looked to be a nasty hammy. Bass, have you got an update? I know you'll probably get him scanned today or tomorrow.
No, not really. It's a hard one to know, and even talking to the physios, looking through the footage after the game, it's we won't know till we see the scans. It was an unusual one because he's going to soccer the ball off the ground and misses the ball. So he's had a great pre-season and fitted really well on the wing and been spending a little bit of time at high forward. So I've been really happy with Riley, and we all have. So it's disappointing for him.
You mentioned Connor Rozee before, Bass. Is that half part of the plan? I mean, have you penciled him to return this weekend?
Yeah, he starts running today, I think. It's today or tomorrow. So we're expecting him to train by the end of the week. He's felt really good about his foot. Now, things can change when he starts running, but certainly the expectation is that he's going to play this week, and if it's not this week, it's next week.
An update on Hamish Hartlett. Is he expected to be available this weekend?
Yeah, Hamish trained. He did nearly a full week of training last week, so we'd expect him to be available for selection this week too.
And last one as well, Lockie Jones. I think Kenny sort of hinted that he might have tweaked a hamstring playing for the Magpies on Friday night.
Yeah, I haven't seen the update. He certainly came off the ground in the second quarter on Friday. He was very good up until then. But yeah, he just looked like he hurt his hammy a little bit. So we'll wait and see what the results are of the scans. But he's probably had them by now. And then we'll move forward from there.
How much footage did you watch apart from your game on the weekend, Bass? And what did you make of the games across the competition on the weekend?
No, I watched a little bit. Certainly the Saturday, you can't help but feel a little bit more anxious on Sunday after Saturday's games. And some of the unusual results. Certainly the game is more open. With the longer game time, or back to normal game time, reduced rotations, the man on the mark rule certainly opening up holes in the corridor that haven't been there for the last few years. So look, it was really interesting first round. I think it's probably a pretty enjoyable first round. I reckon the AFL would have been pretty happy with it. And looking forward to more footy this weekend.
Take me through your frustrations with the industry. We did know last week that you've written a group collectively to the AFL Coaches Association. I've heard Ken and I think Chris Davies confirm that since then. What's your gripe with the association, and how is the profession of being a coach and an assistant coach at AFL level going in your eyes and that of your colleagues?
I think the main probably gripe that we've felt as a coaching team for a little period of time is almost the lack of respect that coaches get in the AFL, not just for the way the game's played and the time we spend with the players, but the amount of support we give them. And I think there's, if you look at the reduction in off-field incidents over the last, half a dozen years, really, I mean, a big part of it is the amount of support that the players are getting. not just from their welfare, which is improving all the time at footy clubs, but from their coaches as well. So, I think when you're getting blamed for this state of the game, a lot of things seem to fall at the coach's feet. And, we're not exactly the highest paid people in our industry. So maybe if we're meant to be so good or so important, then, maybe we should be a little bit more supported and respected.
Yeah, it's a strong and fair claim, I would have thought. The industry's been smashed. You're getting paid less and you're being asked to do more. And you don't feel like you're supported clearly. A little bit neglected, would that be a decent word to use?
Yeah, you can always feel a little bit left out too in South Australia. But yeah, I think it was as much around, from for the Coaches Association, what's our direction forward? Clearly, we want to know if we're a union or if it's a welfare for coaches. If we're a union, we didn't have such a good negotiation last year compared to some other parts of the industry. But in saying that, we've still got our jobs, and a lot of people have lost work within the AFL. So we're still here, which is a good thing.
Did you get a response from that letter? And what did it say? Were you happy and satisfied with it?
We got a response, but we're still waiting to hear back, on some of the questions that we asked.
And Sam Powell-Pepper, can we have an update with him? Is he back at the club yet? And I guess everyone's concerned about his welfare. Can you give us and Port fans an update?
Not really. He's not at the club yet. I did catch up with him last week. He seemed to be going okay. So yeah, he's just looking at his plans in the near future to get himself set up to be probably a little bit more stable off the field. Travis has been great for him for a good couple of years, but he's got to learn how to stand on his own 2 feet in this world, and that's what we're here to do, is to help support him so that he can do that.
Hey, Bass, speaking of Travis, he's 33 this year. What do you reckon he's got left? Maybe 6 or 7 years?
He might do. I think he's one of those guys that's kept himself in such great condition his whole career. It'll be much around motivation for him, because he's physically in unbelievable condition. So it's a bit of an accumulator. If you treat your body like a temple each and every year of your footy career, you get a little bit more at the end, and that's what he's done. And he's as good as he's ever been.
Good on you, Bass. Appreciate your time this morning and filling us in with the thoughts on the result and the issues that are across the broader industry. Good luck this weekend against Essendon, mate. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Nathan Bassett there from Port Adelaide. Port fans, you can have your say about that. I think it's really fair what Port Adelaide have done in taking a lead with the issues, because it's not only the Port coaches that are clearly frustrated, it is the other coaches across the competition, and every time we get an assistant coach on, you sense that a little bit. A bit of a thankless industry at the moment. So for the Port Adelaide coaches to take the lead on this and show some leadership and get some action going, I think the competition as a whole will benefit from that.
All right, still time to get involved this morning as well. The text line 0427 154 166. This one from James. He said, I'm not a professional footballer, guys, but from what I saw, Danger could have tackled Jake Kelly. Cheers. And that's probably the overriding thought out of the whole thing. You just question, what is the point of the bump anymore, apart from genuinely protecting yourself? You just would not move with any sort of force and bump anyone at any part of their body. It's too much of a risk.
The bump is dead. 18 minutes past 8 o'clock. Your calls on the other side of this, 1300 736 736, and we'll work through a number of your text messages. Thanks for your contribution to the show. We'll get you involved on the other side of this. Give us a call. We'd love to have a chat to you.
Oh, we'll do it thanks to Tyre Power as well. The massive Easter sale, biggest brands, best prices, and Mazda. Unbeatable ABN offers on the brand new Mazda BT50, 29 degrees across Adelaide today. It'll be mostly sunny.
22 minutes after 8 o'clock, we are at SENSA's Studio Lumo. Well, Hazy is anyway, and we're taking your calls on 1300 736 736. Tony's on the Gold Coast. Hey, Tony, Dangerfield's going to get 3 or 4 weeks. What'd you make of his bump?
Yeah, look, I I think there was no malice in it, like everyone said, and I love watching the way he goes about it. But the question I've got about it is, why was he not checked under the new concussion rules? Because his head collected Kelly's as hard as Kelly's collected his, really.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Sometimes you get hit in the head, you get concussed, and you think, oh, gee, that was a minor hit, but he still ended up concussed. Sometimes you get smashed, but it just hits a good spot and you're okay. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those things, isn't it, Hazy? Sometimes you get concussed, sometimes you don't. Bit of luck involved.
Well, there's a bit of luck involved, but depending on the incident, that's what's going to be in question now. I mean, you can't bump even if it's a head-on-head contact, yet you can still fly through like Dan Houston did and raise the knee and absolutely destroy a bloke, and that's part of the game. Not Dan Houston's fault. That's what you're taught as a youngster. But, I mean, compare it to other sports, you certainly can't raise your knee when you're jumping up in basketball, can you?
Callum's got a question for Hazy. G'day to you, Jay Fry. Good morning.
Hey, boys. How are you?
Good, mate.
Right. So I sit down on Saturday to watch the 36ers.
Oh.
They're in. No Mitch Creek should win this. All right. Sixers are up. Sixers down. Hit overtime. We should win this in overtime. Why should we win this in overtime? Because Andrew Hayes said we should win this in overtime. What happens? Josh Giddey goes down.
Oh, no.
Andrew.
Oh, no.
Have you still got that Scott Morrison grab? Stop it. Stop it. You're killing horses. You ending NBA careers. Did you need to have really good weather as well? Did you tip LeBron James to have an outstanding game?
Oh,
what are you doing?
LeBron wasn't in my thoughts, Callum, but I understand. I get it.
Stop it. It's not sensible. It's not helpful.
It's not. It's dangerous. It's got to the point now
Can you tip against my kids' basketball team on Wednesday? That'd be great.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I mean, it's got to that point, hasn't it, Callum? Apologies to the 36ers and to Josh Giddey. I'll just stay out of your thoughts. There you go. We'll leave it at that.
Fantastic.
Good on you, Callum. Appreciate your thoughts. A few texts coming through, Hazy. 0427 154 166.
Dangerfield didn't bother to check on Kelly after they clashed with him, and he could see Kelly was clearly injured. Poor form. MRP can throw the book at him. That's from Steve in Vermont. Well, the other thing on top of that as well is that Dangerfield was also on the end of a pretty solid head clash. So question marks where his head was exactly at after the collision. But, yeah, it was one of those incidents, and it's not the first time that Dangerfield's been involved in such an incident. He goes very, very hard at the ball, and I don't want to sit here and then say, well, perhaps blokes shouldn't be going that hard because it's part of the game, and it used to be a spectacle, but not anymore.
Yep, and the question was, should Dangerfield have had the concussion sub as well? Well, he clearly wasn't concussed. Who needs to pull their socks up, Hazy, for all-day socks by Underwork? So comfy, you'll chuck all your other socks up. I've got one. Stand rule's horrific, and to the point where players are having shots from outside 50 are now easy shots because they can just run around, give themselves another 10 metres closer to goal and slot them through. Saw Tom McDonald do it, and what you are basically saying with the stand rule is that you are forcing the opposition to play with 17 players and not 18. One player can't play. For a brief moment in the game, you got 17, not 18. So AFL, Steve Hocking, pull your socks up. It's a terrible rule, and nothing will convince me otherwise.
Look, I'm going to stay on that bandwagon as well. All day socks by Underwork, so comfy, you'll chuck all your other socks out. Pull your socks up, AFL. I mean, if you've got a big giant stadium where the roof can be closed, maybe someone needs to check their weather app, and if there is a bit of flash rain, keep the roof shut so that North Melbourne and Port Adelaide don't turn up and maybe have to change their boots because it's a wet deck. Come on.
Yeah, pull your socks up, Etihad Stadium. And I got one more. Pull your socks up to the North Melbourne fans. I've gone into bat for you. I've argued with Caroline Wilson